Talk about the walls in Naples. We mean the most important place. We talk about the defense, the first defense of the ancient Naples. We can talk first of the Greeks, which were the first one to build the walls. There were two ages we can say about the walls. One way was used is the ancient, that was around the 4th century, and there was used the yellow tuff, which we can see over there. Talking about Bellini squares, I'll lend my words to my colleague.
In 1954, during the excavations, were discovered the Greek walls, which are powerful defenses built in the 4th century before Christ by Greeks and Romans. These walls were created to strengthen the city and protect it from the raids of enemy tribes. The stone they were made of was the tuff, which is a porous rock that is formed by the cementation of volcanic ash or dust. Piazza Bellini is a square frequented by the Napolitan nightlife for the presence of many bars. In 1886, Alfonso Basicco built the statue of the composer Vincenzo Bellini. This is why the square is called like this.
The three streets of Naples, commonly called Decumani, were built in Greek era in 6th century. But the term Decumano is actually incorrect, because for Decumano we mean the urbanization of Roman times. But Neapolis was founded as a Greek colony. Neapolis has the Greek planning.
Today, the layout streets of the ancient center of Naples has remained substantially identical to the original one, and the central street is larger than the other two. They are Superior Decumano, Major Decumano, and Lower Decumano. We found that the typical Easter cake pastiera has burned as an offer to the parthenope made by the population, and you need to know that the 7 pastry lines cross together to represent the same planimetry of the 3 parallel Decumani streets and the 4 cardini of Naples.
The Superior Decumano. The Superior Decumano today conserves a lot of constructions and walls from Roman areas as a religious building like the Church of Santa Sofia, and today it corresponds to Via della Sapienza, Via dell'Anticaia and Via Santi Apostoli. The Major Decumano today is one of the most important streets of Naples. It conserves a lot of construction and important points of the city, and it corresponds to Via dei Tribunali.
The Lower Decumano is commonly called Pacca Napoli, and this Decumano is famous for its similarity. Its conformation is changed over time, but seen from above, it's still divided into two parts, the north and south one. The fulcrum of the Decumano is Via San Biagio dei Librai.
The construction of Santa Chiara started in 1310 thanks to the King Roberto d'Anjou in 1340. The church was opened to the cult. The Franciscan small town was made, building 2 convents next to each other. One was female and the other one male. The style of the church is Gothic, and inside it you can find the tomb of Roberto d'Anjou.
By 1137, the Normans had attained great influence in Italy, controlling previously independent principalities and duchies such as Capua, Benevento, Salerno, Amalfi, Sorrento and Gaeta. It was in this year that Naples, the last independent duchy in the southern part of the peninsula, came under Norman control. The last ruling duke of the duchy, Sergius VII, was forced to surrender to Roger II, who was proclaimed King of Sicily by Antipope Anacletus II, 7 years earlier. Naples thus joined the Kingdom of Sicily, with Palermo as the capital.
Frederick II was born in 1192. He was the son of Emperor Henry VI of the Hohenstaufen dynasty and Queen Constance of Sicily. He has been a wise and great emperor, and he was very open-minded. In fact, he accepted and loved Arabic culture. He had many ministries who responded directly to him. He died in 1250 in Castelfiorentino in Apulia.
The University of Naples, the first university in Europe dedicated to training secular administrators, was founded by Frederick II, making Naples the intellectual center of the kingdom. Founded in 1224, it is the oldest public non-sectarian university in the world and is now organized into 27 departments.
Charles V was crowned King of Sicily. He moved the capital from Palermo to Naples. He was fond of Gothic architecture, and that's why we find many Gothic churches around Naples.
Alfonso was born in Spain. When he was 16, his father became the King of Aragon, so he went to live there. From the moment of his accession, he continued the traditional Aragonese policy of Mediterranean expansion. In 1421, the Queen of Naples, John II, adopted him as her son and heir. After the deaths of Louis III of Anjou and Queen Joan II in 1435, Alfonso succeeded her on 2 June 1442. He conquered the Kingdom of Naples and unified it with Sicily as a dependence of Aragon. At his death in 1458, after which the kingdom was separated because of the War of Naples succession, Ferrante, Alfonso's illegitimate son, took his father.
The Royal Palace of Naples, renovated by Charles III, is a palace, museum and historical tourist destination located in central Naples. It was one of the 4 residences used by the House of Bourbon during their rule over the Kingdom of Naples.
The palace is on site of an earlier residence which had housed the former Viceroy Don Pedro de Toledo. It was begun in the 17th century by the architect Domenico Fontana, intended to house the King Philip III of Spain on a visit never fulfilled.
In 1734, with the arrival of Charles III of Spain to Naples, the palace became the royal residence of the Bourbons. By the 8th century, the royal residence was moved to Reggio of Caserta, and that inland town was more defensible from naval assault, as well as more distant from the often rebellious populace of Naples. During the Napoleonic occupation, the palace was enriched by Joachim Murat and his wife, Caroline Bonaparte, with neoclassic decoration and furnishings.
San Carlo was constructed in just 270 days. It was in 1737 that the first King of Bourbon, Charles, became the promoter of a project that combined magnificence with amazement, and became a clear sign of his power, a theater. It was the architect Giovanni Antonio Medrano, the Spanish colonel brigadier stationed in Naples, who was responsible for the design.
Diego Armando Maradona was an Argentine professional football player and manager. His presence and leadership on the field had a great effect on his team's general performance, while would often be singled out by the opposition. A precious talent, Maradona was given the nickname El Pibe de Oro, the Golden Boy, a name that stuck with him throughout his career.
Maradona arrived in Naples and was presented to the world media as a Napoli player on the 5th of July 1984. Maradona played for Napoli at a period when north-south tensions in Italy were at a peak due to a variety of issues, notably the economic differences between the two. Led by Maradona, Napoli won their first ever Serie A Italian Championship in 1986-87. Murals of Maradona were painted on the city saints in buildings, and newborn children were named in his honor. The following season, the team's prolific attack trio, formed by Maradona, Bruno Giordano and Careca, was later dubbed the Magica.
During his time in Italy, his personal problem increased. His cocaine use continued because of stress. He was the object of some suspicion over an alleged friendship with the Camorra crime syndicate. He died because of a heart attack on 25 November 2020. On 4 December 2020, 9 days after Maradona's death, Napoli's home stadium was renamed Stadio Diego Armando Maradona.
Totò is the most famous Italian comic, also known as Antonio Curtis. Is one of a smiling but sympathetic bourgeois figure. In fact, he was born in a family of impoverished Italian nobility. He served in the military during World War I and then began his acting career by working on musicals. He also acted in many successful films, and he is recognized as the symbol of Neapolitan mood.
Eduardo De Filippo was an Italian actor, playwright and screenwriter who made several plays like Filomena Marturano and Napoli Milionaria. Today is considered one of the best Italian artists of the 20th century, and his historical dramas were written, staged and directed by himself. Filomena Marturano is a comedy that talks about a former prostitute who tries to trick a man into marrying her, but is stopped by a younger woman that the man falls in love with. In the end, the man marries the older woman because he wanted to raise his child, even though he doesn't know which one of the three it is. Napoli Milionaria is a bit more tragic since it talks about a family who lived in 1942 and tries it all to keep themselves going. All of a sudden, when the family is in the deepest moments of crisis, a family member who was thought dead arrives in rescue. This specific part was scripted for a specific Italian actor, Totò.